some of the problems that we see here, and the reason why I'm highly recommending this, is as we start to move to that AI, and as we start to try to get some deep dive into how we start to use that data to really get ahead of our competition. First, let me talk about some of the problems I see here. So, a lot of the time we have data that's distributed, it's dirty, it's spread all over the place. Like I said earlier, some of the problems I see requires data scientists, extremely expensive, time consuming to go out. And something that a lot of people don't know, just because they haven't gotten to that maturity of leveraging AI, is how do you maintain it? I mean, the AI model that you create on day one is not necessarily going to be the best model that you create in the future. You're most likely going to have multiple iterations of this model. You're going to have multiple performance capabilities of these as the models get smarter. So how do you operationalize this AI creation and get it into product? So it's a really big problem that I don't think most people have even encountered yet. So one of the solutions that we came up with is this is our AutoAI solution. So it allows you to get to market faster. We can get to from 0 to AI at 2x of normal. This is a simplified deployment model, so we can get to market and get that through there much quicker. We don't have to leverage a lot of data scientist knowledge. I mean, we can do this with existing staff and existing profiles. We leverage a lot of open source libraries, and you get a lot of the ML ops of operational AI out of the box. So, sounds great and all, but how does this actually work? So, think of this as you have some sort of data lake, and this could be any kind of thing. It could be, CVS files, it could be XML data, it could be, a data lake, it could be, it could be like things like Snowflake. It really could be a vast majority of things. And there's a lot of integration points with this. So as long as we have access to that data, we can bring it all into a centralized place, and you get a nice UI where you can essentially map out the data sources with what you actually care about and what you're actually trying to figure out. From there, we can start to leverage open source frameworks. So there's a ton of open source frameworks out there that have a lot of this capability built into it. Things like H2O has a free open source model, and they also have a paid product. So their paid product does a lot of this for you, but why not leverage the open source and have essentially an ensemble of different frameworks that you can choose, and let them basically come up with the best approach and the best model for whatever you're trying to do. So once you have that, you can essentially create a binary of these different models, and maybe a series of them or a set of them. And then what we do is we essentially take this binary and we can post it into a Git repository. So now that we have this in there, and this is an iterative process, this isn't static, this isn't one time, we constantly learning, constantly upgrading it, constantly creating binaries, and constantly uploading them into a repository. We can then have essentially a system that monitors these processes, which kick off a RPA process, which can go in and create a Flask API around these. So the goal is, you have a binary, but that binary doesn't do you any good if you're interacting, let's say, with a web application. So you need a way to create an API that can interact with that. And then once we have that API, we can then take that and build a container around it and throw it into something like Cloud Run or from some sort of serverless profile that could actually execute on that, and then deploy it into a container. So now you have your API, which gives you endpoints for that. You have your AI model for executing your decision on whatever you're trying to figure out. And now you can plug that into essentially your web API or your application or your users or your business analytics, whatever you want to enable for that decision you're trying to make. And this is now an iterative process, it's an automatic process that you can then go in and create these AI models to have a great process for operationalizing your AI.